Welcome, one and all, to my first speed art. This time, this is the first time I've installed any kind of substantial drawing platform. Usually I've used MS Paint or GIMP or some kind of generic editor. This is my first time actually drawing something digitally. The only reason I did it is because, frankly, I just think Krita, the program I'm using, is pretty cool. It's a very unique thing. It's very, very high quality for free software, and I can't recommend it highly enough. I'm not much of the artist type. I don't do much in that regard. Some doodles when I was young, just the typical thing kids do. Just some drawings here and there, scribbled in a notebook when you're bored in class. That's the classic thing to do. Teacher's droning on, you're listening, but you don't really care. So you doodle some stuff. And I'm not going to consider anything I do to be of high quality, but I'm not here to be a perfect artist. I'm just here to create, I suppose, concept art for an idea that I've had for a while and that I've been trying to put into a real tangible form, and this is my first real honest step in doing that, because if you want to get an idea from your brain and get it into the flesh, there's a few ways to do it. You could write it, using the power of language, or you could draw it, the power of sight, the power of perception. Or you could just talk about it orally, but the thing about talking about it orally is that unless you're recording it into something like I am right now, you're not going to really have much there. And generally speaking, it's a bit harder to organize your thoughts orally than to take your time and write it or draw it out in the form you view it in your head. So what am I actually doing? I've been droning on for like 2 minutes now. What I'm drawing is, in case you couldn't already tell, a combination hybrid of a Triceratops and a human being, because of the skull and the Triceratops, and I'm trying to merge those two forms together. I suppose you could call me an evil tracer, because I am very much using a model of a human head and some art made by another person of a Triceratops, very well made. The watermark is visible at some points of this video that show who it's from. I don't know who it's from, but if you search up Triceratops, it's one of the top results. It's a very beautiful piece, very, very cool, very high detail, which is why I chose it. The question is, why am I making this? Why am I making this weird Tricero-human thing? That's a good question, I'll tell you. I've always had a fascination with genetic experimentation, just the simple concept of it. TV Tropes calls it the latest Phlebtonium of the modern era, and what that means is Phlebtonium as a trope is basically anything that is the forefront of modern science is used as an explanation for some kind of power or wild, unimaginable thing. For example, a superhero gets struck by lightning or goes into a nuclear power plant and gets covered in radiation of some sort, gamma, beta, alpha, whatever the hell, and they somehow end up being this massive hulking brute or a powerful being. We all know that's not how it is, but at the very forefront of the atomic age, it was unknown, just what you could do with that thing. Obviously, you weren't going to be some superhuman just because you got bombarded with rays, but it was the unknown of it by the general populace that made it a very intriguing thing. And so moving forward now into 2020 and pushing forward, the huge version of that is we're now entering the genetic era. We have already done so many things with genetic information. We've made Flavor Saver, a type of tomato that just stays ripe for longer. It's just a better tomato. We've got fish that glow in the dark because we inserted a gene that made them bioluminescent. And I say we, but really it's the scientists and people that do it. It's kind of hard for me to claim that, oh yeah, we did it, when really it's just a small group of people that are pushing this forward. And they're international, they're around the globe. Americans, Chinese, Europeans, all kinds of things. It's very, very interesting stuff. And of course, being so interested in it, I thought, well, what if we keep pushing the envelope? Let's say that ethics are not a problem. What would mankind make? Well, obviously, we try to make better versions of humans. There's already all kinds of worry about that with designer babies and, oh, it's the end of the world because designer babies are going to be better than us. Or there's fear that there's going to be some kind of Ubermensch and that you'll only be able to be this certain set of genetics or else. But honestly, I don't think that's necessarily a problem. If we want to take the genetic perfection route rather than become transhuman, because there are two separate routes. Transhuman is just you replace more and more of the human body with machines. But the genetic route, the genetic gene editing, is basically perfecting the blueprint given to us by God or whatever you believe in. But I believe in God personally. But it's an amazing blueprint. And as with all things, it can get messed up and ruined over time by things like free radicals. But using science and technology, we can take that blueprint and use it to make a better human being. Faster, stronger, all that goodness. Now, obviously, it would not be perfect. There's no way we're ever going to reach full, utter perfection. At least, not anytime soon. Right? And even if you make the supposedly quote-unquote perfect human being, they're still a human being, and as human beings they can still sin or make mistakes. Even if they've got a perfect body and perfect brain chemistry, you can still do bad things, But in terms of, oh no, one Ubermensch race taking over the world, this is why gene editing bad and must be banned or heavily restricted. Honestly, you can have multiple races, like every race that's alive today, and you can have the genes edited so they're just the best versions of themselves. And they can borrow from each other. Like, for example, there's all kinds of black ethnicities, or like in Africa, that have fast twitch muscles and all kinds of things that make them extremely adept at running and things like that. And you can put that into everyone else's genes, and people can bring other genes that, like, for example, white people have, Europeans especially, like the further north you go, the more likely they are to be able to have lactose and be fine. But other places, there's a lot of lactose intolerance, so that's another thing that you could, quote unquote, fix. You give everyone else that gene, and bada bing, bada boom. If you do it right, then suddenly no one has lactose intolerance anymore. It's a very controversial subject because it gets into just how much intelligence is affected by genetics and how much it's nature versus nurture. Personally, I'm not going to get into that, but it's all very interesting and it's all worth being discussed. Shying away from it does not make it go away. Whether you like it or not, there are going to be people pushing for this, whether it's legal or whether it's not. As long as civilization keeps progressing, it is an inevitability. And there's already people that have done this. Let me look it up. There's some Chinese scientist. I'm trying to look it up right now. There was a Chinese scientist, I believe his name was like Hu Jiankek or something like that. But he, in total secret, he took 2 human embryos, and these are fertile human embryos, and he inserted a gene that was supposed to make them resistant and or immune to HIV, right? So he did that for both of them and put them into a woman who wanted to get pregnant but, couldn't. So the couple was trying to basically have test tube babies, and the scientist was willing to help them with that, but he did that, and it's very shaky whether he actually told them that he inserted the genes or not, but he did. He inserted genes into the embryos, and now there's 2 children running around that are absolutely gene edited. And from what little I can tell, because the family that went through this is heavily protected. We don't know their real names. We don't know where they live, other than the fact that they're probably in mainland China. But, you know, the scientist himself was actually sentenced to a few years in prison, as were some of his fellow scientists. But they did do it. Whether you like it or not, they gene edited a viable human embryo and brought it to fruition through the mother. That's insane. And what's even wilder is that happened 2 years ago. That happened back in 2018. That's how far along we've come, genetically speaking. So, it's wild. And going off of that concept, you really gotta think about, okay, so we can make the perfect human being, quote unquote, or do all these things, but what if we go a little mad? What if we get a little crazy with what we're doing? What if someone says, you know what? You know Jurassic Park? I think that's pretty cool. We should do that. You know? Like at some point in history, some guy with a lot of money, some billionaire with some fetish or some crazy idea, some crazy dream decides, you know what? Fuck it. I want dinosaur humans. Or I want bird humans. Or like some weird animal-human hybrid with human sapients, but, you know, animalistic appearance compared to the normal human being. Basically, a furry billionaire. That's the base concept. You know, just some guy who wants to mangle with genetics and see how far it can go. Recruiting geneticists from all over the world and paying them crap tons of money or giving them all kinds of benefits if they come and work for him. In most likely utter secrecy, because let's be honest, there's not a lot of world governments that would approve of that kind of experimentation. Because think of the horrifying things that can produce. You know, what kind of birth defected slop monster wildness could you make? Some poor creature that's half alive, half dead, or something that's just sapient enough to realize what's going on, but not enough to be truly intelligent, or some mangled or disfigured thing. And I think that's horrible. And that's one of the absolute downsides to genetic engineering, is that at some point it requires some kind of failure to reach the point where you can get a successful thing. And with things like plants, it's not such a big deal, right? And if you're careful enough and safe enough, you won't actually have those catastrophic failures and horrible things you gotta put out of their agony. You know, there's plenty of procedures and ways to prevent that, but the inevitability of it is that it will happen in some capacity at some point, if they're willing to push that kind of experimentation. That's where regulation is sometimes a good thing, and that it keeps people from being too malignant with their experimentation. Because there are, even with how pro genetic experimentation I am, there's always a line where you're just causing undue suffering to an animal or some subhuman or sapient thing that, frankly speaking, either shouldn't exist or shouldn't exist in such a horrible abomination of a form where it hurts to live, you know? And so that was the concept I worked with. what if there was a billionaire? Did that, right? We already talked about that. But he's just somewhere in the middle of, let's say somewhere in South America, Argentina perhaps, just some facility off there, bunch of geneticists working on stuff. They make these Dino-Sapiens, Dinosauria, whatever you want to call them, these hybrid dino-human things that are fully sapient. They have full emotions. In every sense of the word, they are human, save in appearance and maybe a little bit of mixed genetics with some animals from the long-forgotten past, you know, a Triceratops as I'm making here, or a Parasaurolophus, or a Velociraptor, or something like that. Now, personally, I would stick with the herbivores first, because, you know, before you can make even a hybrid, you first have to make just the basic Triceratops. And honestly, even with the new stuff coming about how there may potentially be DNA fragments in dinosaur fossils, like that was a recent thing that was found out. But even then, those are like little fragmented things. They're not readable. It's like it's the difference between a blueprint and tatters of blue paper that was once part of a blueprint. The fact that those tatters are even there after, you know, supposedly millions and millions and millions of years is a big deal in and of itself. Yes, yeah. As I drew this, I I started to realize that, oh wait, I just made the yes meme, but it's a Triceratops hybrid. So I just did that for my own amusement, because what can I say? I thought it was funny. But anyways, what was I saying? Got way off track. How would these sapient beings, these dinosaur girls, or these dinosaur boys, or just dinosaur anything, you know, these sapient humanoid creatures, how would they come to terms with the fact that they were made solely because a billionaire said, fuck it, why not? Like, someone asked, why did you make it? Because I can, because I want to, because it's there to do. Just like climbing Everest, I wanted to make humanoid dinosaur people for some reason. And just to put yourself in the position of being a cloned being that is not fully human, is fully aware that it is not fully human, and just has to live with the fact that it was created solely for the sake of being created. Say, there's several ways to go about looking at this. So, like, how would you deal with this? Now, if say, let's give this Triceratops girl a name, right? Let's just say I don't know. Let's just say, what's her name? I can't think of her name. I have the code name for AT&T. The joke is that haha phone company AT&T, but it's 18T. You know, the 18th version of the Triceratops that they were trying to make, or Tricerosapien, or whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't know why, but whenever you get a Triceratops girl, like, it's always some T name, like Trixie or Teresa or Tracy or something like that. So maybe I'll break convention. Let's say, Theodora. I don't know. Let's just call her. Let's just call her what? Theo, maybe? Is Theo a girl's name? I don't know. Alright, here I go. Theo, Theode, Theodosia, Theodora. This is Theodora, gift of God. Language of origin is Old Greek. Well, there you go. That's Okay, there you go. That's her name, Theodora. Gift of God, except that's a very vain thing, but that sounds exactly like something a billionaire would name his experiments. Okay, so Theodora. As Theodora, like being in her shoes, you have a few ways that you can go about this. You know that you are what you are, and you know why you exist, right? Or why you were made. The positive side you could look at is, hey, I'm alive. I exist on this planet. I have a full life ahead of me as long as my genetics are stable. But let's say that her genetics are stable, like she is the quote-unquote final form of the Tricerasapien, and she'll just live a nice long human-level life, like 70, 80 years, you know. She can look at it a positive way and be like, yeah, I may have been put here for a stupid reason, but I'm here. And being here, I can do so many things. I'm one of the first of my kind that exists, and I can make the best of it. And I can make it so that future generations of my kind, assuming that there are future generations, but let's say there will be, future generations of my kind will look back on what I did and how I acted and how I lived in this world, and they'll take that from me and live the best they can. So for the sake of myself, or for the sake of those that come after me, I have to do my best, because I'm here, and that's what matters, right? That's the positive outlook for looking at it, and that's honestly what I want to portray with what I'm making, which is, I still haven't gotten around to saying this, but it's the title of it is Puella Dinosauria. Dinosauria obviously being Latin for, dinosaur, dino being terrible, sauria being Greek for lizard. I think both of that I think it's Greek. Dinosauria is more Greek than Latin. But Puella is Latin for girl, so it literally translates to dinosaur girl. And the concept of it is just, you're the son of a geneticist going through this. You're there in the same facility. You were born and raised with these Dino-Sapiens, right? And maybe not born and raised, but let's say half of your life you were a normal kid, right? And then say you get into a horrible accident, and then, whoa, you're good again. But the actuality of it is, the real you died in that accident, and your geneticist father, somehow, some way manages to get a brain scan of you. Like, we're getting into, sure, it's really stretching what is believable. But let's say you get cloned, right? You're not aware you're cloned. You just think you survived a horrible accident. The cloning wasn't perfect, so you're missing a limb, say a leg or two, right? But you think it's because of the car accident I was in, or it's because I got run over by a car when I was little. But, the real thing of it is you were cloned. And so, for a while, you grow up, there's like a normal village outside a facility where all the geneticists and their families stay, right? And you go to school and you do all that, and you want to grow up to be like your father. So you go through that. And then you're brought into the facility for basically internships, like say when you're 15 in your high school years, because you're a son of one of the best geneticists there. People aren't going to throw a big fit. And honestly, considering you've never left your village, your place anyways, it's really not a big deal, and they don't expect you to go AWOL or nothing. They trust you. And you go into this world because in training new geneticists, they have their own school set up, right? And it's not just school, you also have to do lab work and help them and all that. But generally speaking, it's like a university, but in high school, because let's just say they believe in teaching younger. It's for the sake of the setup. But then you meet, and coming into this, you sign the NDA, and you're like, okay, I'm good. Let's see what there is to see. Because you don't know what they actually work on in there. You just know they work on genetic experimentation. Right? And let's say they've cured some diseases or done some things that are helpful, but everything else they keep under wraps. And you meet all of these dinosaur girls, all of these experiments that have been successful, and maybe a few that weren't completely successful, like say a malformed one here or there, or one that's more animalistic but is still fully sapient, one that looks more human but is dumber. Whatever in between we can get that it isn't, absolutely horrifying to think about. Or maybe I should lean into the horror of it a little bit, because there is some horror of it. But at least at first, it should be a kind of more lighthearted thing, where you just get to know these experiments, these people, because these are people. They're not just your playthings. These are people. They're doing the same thing as you. It's basically a high school, but for geneticists. And the Dino Girls go there too, because they're getting an education as well. And the main conflict of the story can be, hey, should we have done this at all? Right? And the debates between scientists and the Dino-Sapiens and you about the ethics of it. And beyond the ethics, what is the billionaire going to do with them? He's the guy who funded all of this. And the geneticists that work for him don't necessarily agree with him, but they do it for one reason or another, whether it was to save your son, like your father, or just for the sake of it, or because you think it'll help in curing other things, like by having much more advanced knowledge of how to mangle with genetics. By doing these wacky experiments, you can also learn how to make cancer much, much less common by, say, flipping some genes around here or there. You know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to get at. But what would the billionaire do with it? Does the billionaire just want to do it for the sake of it? Are his aims altruistic? Or does he want to, play down the fact that these are actual sapient beings and just kind of turn them into, I hate to say the word, but slaves. Slaves to be sold far and wide as, to the highest bidder as some kind of degenerate sex slave or some horrible, awful thing. Because there's some people with lots of money that would pay good money for that. Or even just beyond that, maybe he does want to do that, but maybe he wants to just bring about a whole new subspecies of human, or a new subspecies of human entirely, the Dino-Sapiens, and just let them out into the world and have them become true citizens of the world with human rights and all that. And I think what would be very cool is, as one of the first people to get to know these girls after they were already matured, they were already knowledgeable, and they're still young and inexperienced. They're about the same age as you, like between like 16, 18, the teenage years, but just you as the player should have some kind of say in how that goes. You're just the son of a geneticist, and you're basically a geneticist in training. But perhaps in getting to know them so well, you can have a deeper relationship with them. And some of the other geneticists, because that are kind of like parental figures to these girls, maybe working together, you could say, try and get them full human rights, or you could go the full evil route and have them, just be slaves to humanity. Or you could get them dumbed down to be like, okay, this was a mistake. We should never make another sapient being again, and like these are the last ones we'll ever do, or we'll kill these ones off, and we'll just have ones that are completely subservient and small-brained and just generally, lesser. They're not fully sapient. They're not fully there. They're bred and conditioned to be slaves. And when Puella Dinosauria, that's my goal. That's what I want to show. The ethical concerns of that, the relationships you can have with those sapient beings, and have you affect the outcome. And I want to have it be lighthearted and have some cool stuff, some lighthearted, fun stuff. But doing that as well, just to give it a kind of oomph, so that it's not just a playful romp, but it's got a bit of meaning to it. And it's just food for thought, things to think about. But anyways, yeah, that's Theodora, or Theo, the Triceratops girl. And we'll get shortly to the final version. I didn't change much. Like I said, I'm not much the artist type. I just wanted to bring the concept from my mind to the page. And I think that despite it being very crude and basically an MS Paint drawing, I think it gets my point across well. You can see because the reason I made it a collared shirt is because with the big ol' crest that she has with the hood, she can't exactly have pullover t-shirts. And there's the final image right there. So she's got to wear button-ups and things like that. It's just neat to think about the concessions and changes you'd have to make with different physiology. But yeah, that's Theodora. My concept for Puella Dinosauria, and who knows, maybe I'll make something of it if you're interested in it, in writing or drawing, because you can tell I'm not that good of an artist, or anything else relating to it, music, whatever, because it's kind of a visual novel in the vein of, say, Katawa Shoujo or something like that. Just let me know, contact me. Thank you all for watching if you actually did, and have a great day.